Hello and welcome back to another lecture. In this lecture, you will learn how to host this HTML website on AWS using CloudFormation. Before you complete this project, I recommend watching the video on how to host an HTML website using the Management Console. Once you understand how to host an HTML website in the Management Console, we will use the same steps to write our CloudFormation template. I'll leave the link in the description. We will use these steps to complete this project. First, we are going to open a text editor on our computer and save our CloudFormation template as a YAML format. Once we have saved our CloudFormation template as a YAML format, we are going to create CloudFormation resources for security group and EC2. Then we are going to use an intrinsic function to pass our user data to our EC2 instance. And finally, we are going to create our stack using the CloudFormation template. To start, open a text editor on your computer. I am going to use Visual Studio Code to complete this project, so I'll open it. I am going to leave a link in the description on how to install Visual Studio Code if you don't have it already installed on your computer. Once you've opened Visual Studio Code or your preferred text editor, we are going to select File and we are going to click New File. And this is going to open a new file for us. The next thing we are going to do is save this file as a YAML format. To save this file as a YAML format, select File here, then select Save As. Select the location where you want to save your file. I'll save it on my desktop. Give your template a name and you can call it any name you want. Once you've given your template a name, the next thing we are going to specify is our template extension. To specify our template extension, you are going to enter .yaml after your template name. So it should be your template name .yaml. This is how you specify your template extension. Once you've entered the name and the extension, we are going to click Save. And there you go. We have saved our template as YAML format and you can see it up here. To complete this project, I create a reference file for you. And the reference file contains the resource type and properties that we need to create our resources. So let me open it to show you what it looks like. This is the reference file that we will use to complete this project. And in this reference file, we only have two resources. The first resource will create our security group. And the second resource will create our EC2 instance. So what I want you to do now is copy these resources. So make sure you start here and copy all these resources. I'm going to right click copy. Then I'm going to come back to my CloudFormation template and paste it in there. Once you've pasted in your CloudFormation template, you can close the reference file because we don't need it anymore. And I'll scroll up. The first thing I want to point out on this template is the indentation are very important. So make sure when you paste it, they are indented the same way you see it on my screen. So once you've pasted, we can start filling in the values for our resource. The first resource we are going to create in our CloudFormation template is the security group. And to create any resource in your CloudFormation template using the YAML format, the first thing you have to start with is the template sections. And you can see that is what we start our template with. We have specified the resources section. So once you specify the resources section, under it, you can list all the resources you want to create. This first resource is going to create my security group. And the first thing I did is give it a name. I called it Web Server SG. This is a name I made up and you can call this name anything you want. So once you've given your resource a name, the next thing you are going to specify is your resource type. The resource type comes from the CloudFormation documentation. And this is something we cannot change. For any resource you want to create using CloudFormation, there will be a specific resource type to create that resource. So for example, we are using this first resource to create a security group. And to find the resource type to create a security group in the CloudFormation documentation, this is how I find the resource type. The first thing I want you to do is open Google. Once you open Google, I want you to type in the search box CloudFormation create security group. Once you type CloudFormation create security group, press enter. Under my Google search results, this is the resource type I'm looking for here. And you can see under the definition, it says specify a security group. So I'll select it. And this is going to take you to the exact location of this resource type in the CloudFormation documentation. So this is the CloudFormation documentation to create a security group. If I scroll down to the YAML format, there you can see the resource type. If you compare it to what we have in our template, you'll see that it is the same. So while we are here, let's also look at this. Once you specify your resource type, the next thing you are going to specify is the properties. Properties are the different configuration items that your resource can have. For example, when you create a security group in the management console, you can specify things like the security group name, the ingress rule, and the tags. So anything you can specify in the management console, those things will be available in properties in the CloudFormation documentation. And that is what you are seeing in this security group documentation. So if you scroll down here under properties, it gives you a definition for what each property means. Let's go back to our CloudFormation template. In our CloudFormation template, I have listed the resource type and the properties we need to complete this project. So under properties, the first one is the group description, and that is just the description for our security group. And I've specified the description allow access on port 80 and port 22. The next property is the group name, and the group name is the name of your security group. So here I can give it a name by typing any name here. I'll call it my web server SG. Once you have given your security group a name, the next property is the security group ingress. And these are the different ports we want to open on our security group. For this security group, we are going to open port 80 and port 22. So for the IP protocol, this is going to be TCP. So I want you to type TCP here. And for the from port, this is going to be 80. And the to port, that is also going to be 80. And for the CIDR IP, that is the source of our traffic coming on port 80. So that will be 0.0.0.0/0. This is how we create a rule on our security group that opens port 80. The next rule we are going to create is going to open port 22. So for the IP protocol here, we are going to type TCP again. For the from port, it is going to be 22. To port is also going to be 22. And for the CIDR IP, remember what we said in the previous lecture. You should always limit the source that can SSH into your EC2 instance to your IP address. So for this CIDR IP, you want to make sure you limit it to your IP address. To figure out what your IP address is, what you can do is open Google. In the Google search box, type what's my IP. So once you type what's my IP, press enter. And it is going to show you your IP address here. I'll select it and copy it. Then I'll come back to my CloudFormation template and I'll paste it here. Make sure there's a space after the colon when you are pasting your value. So once you've pasted your IP, type / and enter 32 after it. So this is the format you have to enter it. So your IP address /32. The next property we are going to enter is the tag name for our security group. So for tags, under key, we are going to type name. And for the value, I'm going to enter my web server SG. Once you have given your security group a tag name, the last property we are going to enter is our VPC ID. And this is the VPC that we want to create this security group in. Since we are creating this project in our default VPC, I want you to go to the management console and copy your default VPC ID and paste it here. So I'll go to my management console. In my management console, in the search box, I'm going to type VPC. And I'm going to select VPC under services. In my VPC dashboard, I'm going to select VPCs. Currently, I only have one VPC in my account, and it is the default VPC. I'll select it here, and under details, you should see your VPC ID. Select this box to copy it, then come back to your CloudFormation template, and after your VPC ID, paste it there. So this is all we need to do to create our security group resource. The next resource we are going to create is our EC2 instance. To create an EC2 instance resource, we are going to follow the same steps we use for the VPC. The first thing we have to do is specify the resource name. So I've given it a resource name here. This name, you can make it up, you can call it anything you want. So once you specify your resource name, under it, we have the resource type. Remember, the resource type comes from the CloudFormation documentation, and you can't make this up. So this has to come from the CloudFormation documentation. The resource type is specific to the type of resource you want to create. So if you want to create a security group, for example, there is a resource type for that. If you want to create an EC2 instance, there's a resource type for that. To find the resource type to create an EC2 instance in the CloudFormation documentation, you can come back to Google again. In Google, I'm going to open a new tab, and in the search box, I'm going to type CloudFormation create EC2 instance. So once you type CloudFormation create EC2 instance, press enter. And in the Google search results, you can see it here, specifies an EC2 instance. This is the resource type to create an EC2 instance. I'm going to select it. So when you select it, it will take you to the exact location of that resource type in the CloudFormation documentation. Then let's scroll down to the YAML format. This is the YAML format to create an EC2 instance. You can see the resource type here. And after the resource type, you have the properties. You can see that there are a lot of properties that you can use to create an EC2 instance, which is why I've created the reference template for you, because we don't need to specify all these properties. We only need to pick the ones we need to create our EC2 instance. So this is where you find the resource type to create an EC2 instance. Let's go back to our CloudFormation template. In our CloudFormation template, after our EC2 resource type, the next is we have specified our properties, and under the properties, I have listed all the properties we need to create our EC2 instance. The first one is the instance type, and the instance type is going to be T2 micro. So here, I want you to type T2 micro. So make sure you type T2 micro exactly how you see it on my screen. It is T2.micro. Once you have specified the instance type, the next property is the subnet ID. And this is the subnet where you want to launch the EC2 instance. So let's go to the management console. In the management console, in the VPC dashboard, I'm going to select subnets. We are launching this EC2 instance in our default VPC. And these are the subnets in my default VPC. So you can pick any subnet you want. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'll pick this one. And under details, copy the subnet ID by clicking this box. Once you copy the subnet ID, come back to your CloudFormation template. And after the subnet ID, paste it there. Once you've entered your subnet ID, the next property we are going to enter is our security group IDs. To enter your security group IDs, remember we create the security group up here. So what we are going to do to reference the ID of this security group is you are going to copy that resource name for that security group up here. Copy it. Then come down here. Under your security group IDs property, I want you to press enter. Then press the tab key. And I want you to press the dash sign and space. And I want you to type exclamation mark REF, the way you see it on my screen, space, and paste that resource name. So we are referencing the resource name of our security group up here. So that is what this means. So for your security group ID, make sure you are referencing whatever name you gave to your security group up here. The next property we are going to enter is our key pair name. So I want you to come to the management console again. I'll go to the management console. Then in the management console, I'm going to type EC2 in the search box and select EC2 under services. In the EC2 console, I want you to come to the left side and scroll down and select key pairs under security. Here, I already have a key pair in my account. If you don't have a key pair already, make sure you create one, and I'll leave a link in the description on how to create a key pair. We already did that in the previous lecture. So the name of my key pair is my EC2 key. So I'll come back to my CloudFormation template, and under key pair name, I'm going to type the name exactly how it is in my management console. It is my EC2 key. And this is all I need to do to specify my key pair. The next property we are going to enter is our image ID. An image ID is the AMI we want to use to create our EC2 instance. To get your AMI ID, I want you to go to the management console again. And in the management console, make sure you are in the EC2 dashboard. So I'll select the EC2 dashboard up here. I'm going to try to launch a new instance by clicking Launch Instance here. Here, we are going to use the Amazon Linux 2. So under this Amazon Linux 2, I want you to copy this AMI ID here. So I'll copy this. Now I'll come back to my CloudFormation template again. And under the image ID property, I'm going to paste that AMI ID there. The next property we are going to enter is the tags. So for the tag key, I'm going to enter name. And for the value, I'll call it my web server. Once you have entered the tag name for the EC2 instance, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the user data property to install our website on this EC2 instance. To use the user data property to install the website on this EC2 instance, the first thing you are going to do is specify user data property here. Then once you have specified the user data property, right under it, we are going to specify the base64 intrinsic function, just like you see it here. Once you have specified base64, right under it, we are going to type sub with the pipe symbol. And right after the pipe symbol, I want you to press enter again and press tab. After you've pressed the tab key, this is where we are going to paste all the commands that we will use to install our website. So let me open the command here. These are the commands we will use to install our website. I'll leave a definition for what each of these commands is doing in the description. And if you want a more clear definition, please make sure you watch the last video where we use these commands to host our HTML website on an EC2 instance. So what I want you to do is copy these commands. Then come back to your CloudFormation template. In your CloudFormation template under the sub, make sure you've pressed the tab key. Then we are going to paste those commands in there. When you paste it, it is only the first command that pastes properly. So for this other one, just select them and press the tab key to move it there. So I'll press the tab key to move all these commands. And this is all you need to do. Under sub, make sure all your commands are all lined up on the same line and make sure they are indented in. So what this will do is when CloudFormation is creating our EC2 instance, it is going to run these commands to install our website. We are done creating our CloudFormation template. I want you to scroll back up and click File and save your template. I'm going to click Save. Then once you've saved your template, let's go back to the management console to create our CloudFormation stack. I'll go back to the management console. In the management console, in the search box, I want you to type CloudFormation. Then select CloudFormation under Services. In the CloudFormation console, click Create Stack. We are going to leave it on Template is ready. And under Specify Template, we are going to upload a template file. So click this. Then we are going to click Choose File here. Then browse to the location where you saved your template. I saved my template on the desktop. I'll select it, and I'm going to select my template here. Then once you select your template, click open. The next thing we are going to do is click next. Then under specify stack details, we are going to give our stack a name. Once you've given your stack a name, click next. And on this page to configure stack options, we are just going to scroll down. We'll leave everything as default. Click next. Then on this page, we're also going to scroll down and click create stack. And there you go. It is creating our CloudFormation stack. To see the events, press refresh here. Once you click refresh, you will see all the events of what CloudFormation has created so far. And you can click refresh again. And there you go. CloudFormation has finished creating my stack. So now if I go to the EC2 console, I should have an EC2 instance in my EC2 console. So what I'll do is on this AWS logo, I'll right click on it and I'll select open link in new tab. And this will open the management console in another tab. I'll go to that tab. And in the search box, I'm going to type EC2. And I'll select EC2 under services. On my EC2 dashboard, I have one EC2 instance running. I'll select instance running. And there you go. This is the EC2 instance resource that I specify in my CloudFormation template. The next thing I'm going to do is wait for this EC2 instance to pass the status check. I'm going to click refresh here. And there you go. My EC2 instance has passed the status check. So now if I select this EC2 instance and I copy the public IPv4 address, when I paste this IP address in my web browser, I should be able to access my website. So I'll open a new tab and I'm going to paste that IP address there and I'll press enter. And there you go. You can see that I can access my website. This is the same website we hosted in the previous lecture using the management console. And now we have hosted the same website using CloudFormation. Please leave a comment on this video if you have any questions or there's any part of this lecture you don't understand. The last thing we are going to do is delete our CloudFormation stack to clean up our environment. So I'll come back to the management console again. Make sure your stack is selected and in the upper right hand corner, select delete and click delete stack. And that is going to delete your CloudFormation stack. So if I click refresh, it is deleting the resources that CloudFormation created. If you give it some time, it is going to delete all the resources that CloudFormation created. I'm going to click refresh again. And there you go. It has completely deleted all the resources that CloudFormation created. If I go back to the EC2 console and I click refresh, you can see that I no longer have any EC2 running. And if I clear this filter, you can see my web server, it was terminated. This is how you host an HTML website using CloudFormation. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye.